welcome our great partners from Seoul National University. This event is collaborated with the Graduate School of Public Administration and Center of International Development and Evaluation from Seoul National University with the Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University. First, before we start the seminar today, we would like to welcome Professor Lee Suk-won, the Executive Director of the Center of International Development and Evaluation, Graduate School of Public Administration from Seoul National University, to give us the opening remark. So everyone please welcome Professor Lee Suk-won.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Suk-won Lee. I'm a professor at Graduate School of Public Administration in Seoul National University in Korea, Seoul, Korea. I am very glad to see all of you. Actually, in the morning, before noon, we signed on an MOU with your dean and professor, and it was a meaningful and interesting event that carries important meaning for our future in the future endeavor for collaborative work between two institutions. We are aiming at develop a very productive, collaborative relationship between two universities. And also we are looking into expand our relationship with to include Waseda University in Japan, and also to include development agencies in each countries like KOICA, JICA, and TAICA. So we can do research work and we can do training and workshops. So details are not specified yet, but as we continue conversation and repeat the discussions, and then I'm pretty sure that we can come up with a very nice and productive model of the trilateral cooperation relationship. So I appreciate that Thammasat University was willing to accept our offer and invite us to have a signing ceremony and also these seminar events. So, and I also appreciate all the students coming here for us to give a talk. And I hope we can see each other every year so that we can discuss the mutual development of our countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Suk-won Lee. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Chiani Shawano, the Vice Dean for International Affairs, Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University, to give us the opening remark.
โอเคค่ะก็สวัสดีนะคะขอสวัสดีเป็นไทยแป๊บหนึ่งนะคะ so welcome for everyone who joins our first workshop joint workshop with Thammasat University and Seoul National University from GSPA and CIDE นะคะ so I think we have the new year and this is our good start for our partnership with the joint seminar that today we will present you guys on the topics that related to SDGs and some of evaluations that it would be the topics that would be very important for the policy evaluations and then also any projects that we are doing right now. Right? And then we need to also thanks and then welcome for our participants from many parts, right? From, for example, from UN Global Compact Network, right? From other universities, and then also from Office of National Economics and Social Development Policy. Thanks for Ministry of Foreign Affairs as well. Thanks for coming, for joining this the workshop with us.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chayani, for giving us the opening remark. Okay, my name is Non Nutmon, a lecturer from the faculty of Thammasat University, and I will bring you to the first session of this seminar. For the first session, we are going to have the presentation of 3 papers from both Thammasat University and from Seoul National University. For the participants, if you are interested to download the documents or the presentation of our lecturers, you can scan from this QR code from the schedule that you have been distributed. Okay, for the first paper, we are going to have the presentation of Ajahn Chon Bunna from Thammasat University. He's going to present about the topic of mainstreaming SDGs in Thailand. How much SDG is mainstream in Thailand's national level policies. So everyone, please welcome Ajahn Chon Bunna. And he's going to present the paper about 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Ajahn Non, for introducing me. My name is Chon Bunna, and is Assistant Professor of Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University. Thank you for the organizers who also invited me to present today's presentations, and I also welcome several partners and stakeholders who work on SDGs that are here today from the National Economic and Social Development Council, General Auditor of Thailand, and also UN Global Compact Network Thailand that also here today. And also from Pre-Economic International College and from Pujakan News Agency who also come today. Okay, before I start, I would like to introduce a little bit about the unit of research that I'm doing now. We call ourselves SDG Research and Support Program, or SDG Move. For those who interact with us in the past 3 years, we changed the logo, so it's become more modern in a way. So right now we are under Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University, and we are a branch of research under the Center of Research on Green Economy, the Pro Green Center. So we will be working on moving SDGs in Thailand ahead and trying to connect Thailand and the world to move the SDGs. Okay. So today I will be presenting according to this outline. So since I'm the first presenter, I'm going to say something about the SDGs so everybody has the same background. And I'm going to talk about SDGs in Thailand, the status and the movement of SDGs in Thailand. And then I will come to the questions, how much SDGs are mainstream in the Thailand's national policies. So I will introduce the levels of Thailand's government plans and strategies and tell you how I proceed to find out how much it is integrated into Thai national policies, and then present the findings of the 3-level plan policies, synthesize and then include at the end. I'm trying to be brief, but I believe we have Q&A at the end. So when we talk about sustainable development, the SDG is based on 2 standard definition of sustainable development. The first one is from the World Commission on Environment and Development, which is emphasized on intergenerational justice. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. So it's about the fairness between generations. And the other concept that is also integrated in the SDGs is the 3 pillars of sustainability, which was made popularized by the Johannesburg Declaration on Sustainable Development in 2002, and they focus on 3 aspects of sustainability: social development, economic development, and environmental protections. So these 3 aspects have to be balanced and has to be dealt with systematically. That means it doesn't mean that you have to do 3 kinds of projects at the same time, social, economic, environmental, but you need to see the linkages between these aspects. You have to see how one action in economic aspect affects social and environmental aspect, and how to deal with synergies, how to deal with the trade-offs that happens between them. Okay, so the SDGs is actually the sequel of the Millennium Development Goals, which started in 2001 and expired in 2015. So in 2012, at the Earth Summit, Rio +20 in Rio de Janeiro, world leaders discussed what to do after 2015, and they decided that we need to have another set of goals, set of global goals after 2015. And so that's why if you search for the SDGs, the literature before 2015 will talk about SDGs in the term of post-2015 agendas. So in this period, there were like diplomatic negotiations and also the largest consultation process done by the UN. Estimated 9.5 million people joining the process. And along the way, there are several conferences focusing on different issues like disaster risk reduction in Japan, finance for development in Ethiopia, and also Paris Agreement in France in that year. And so 2015 is like the peak of sustainability. So in September 2015, 193 UN member states ratified the 2030 agenda, and the SDGs operate from 2016 until 2030. This is non-binding agreement, which means we will not be punished if we don't achieve it. But the UN encourage countries to voluntarily present the progress in the high-level political forum for sustainable development every year. So Thailand have been presenting at this platform 2 times already in the past 5 years. And so we are quite active in the SDGs. To give you like the whole structure of the SDGs, everybody is familiar with the 17 goals of the SDGs. But actually 17 goals can be divided into 5 groups of goals, and 3 of the 5 is based on the 3 pillars of sustainability. So there will be the people groups of goal number 1 to 5, which focus on poverty, on food and food security and agriculture, on health, on education and gender equality. The second group is prosperity, which is economic goals, focus on energy, economic growth, infrastructure, inequality, and cities. And the third group is the planet, which is the environmental goal. Goal number 6 on water, on sustainable consumption and production, on climate action, on ocean, and on terrestrial biodiversities. And the other 2 is the cross-cutting goals, peace and partnership, the peace, justice, and strong institution. That is 1, goal number 16, and partnership, goal number 17. And I think today we're going to talk a lot about goal 17 because we also have a professor from Korea who specialized in official development assistant, so it's going to be goal number 17. Okay, we have 17 goals, but that is only issues addressed by the Agenda 2030. The real content of the SDGs is at the target level targets. So we have 169 targets, which are the sub-goals under each goal, defining scopes and details of the goal. And we also have 244 indicators, which is the global indicators for tracking progress of the targets. So, so this is like the structure of the SDGs. I'm very brief now because we have more important contents in here. A lot of things to say about SDGs. So, but before we go further into the question that I raised, it is important that we have to know that SDG is actually based on certain principles, and then these are the 5 main principles that SDGs are based on. And if we have this kind of idea, so then we understand it more correctly, let's say. The first one is the inclusive development principle. Leave no one behind. The Prime Minister actually said that a lot in his TV broadcasting. So this is about how to make sure that the vulnerable groups, the marginalized people can access to public facilities, economic opportunities, political, environmental opportunities. and make sure that they can get back on their feet after they face disasters. This is inclusive development. So this principle should allow us to change our perspective towards the development results. So if we evaluate the development initiative and it says, okay, 98% is already in a good shape, normally we say, yeah, this is a success. But if we have inclusive development in mind, we should think about the other 2% that is not yet in a good position, something like that. The second principle is universal development, which means that these are not the goals for poor countries only, but every country still have to put efforts to achieve these goals together. The third one is integrated development. Simply put, all goals and targets are indivisible. They are all connected, interlinked. So we need to see that those linkages to deal with synergies and trade-offs. That's going to come out. The fourth one is locally focused development. So it must be implemented at local level with local active participations. And the last one is technology-driven development. So we need science, technology, and innovation to achieve the SDGs as well. So these are the basic principle of the SDGs. So this should give you like a very rough picture of the SDGs. Otherwise, you may see 17 goals as separated. So now you see them all connected. Okay, this is like light speed presentation. Okay, let's talk about the Thailand situation on the SDGs. I think the report that comprehensively report each country's situation at the moment is the SDG index, which is not the official report of the UN, but it was done by the Sustainable Development Solutions Network in cooperation with Bertelsmann Stiftung in Germany. So it evaluates. The report evaluates 162 countries around the world. This is the fourth report since 2015. So last year in 2019, we are at number 40 among 162 countries. We were celebrating because we are number one in ASEAN and in Southeast Asia. Somebody might think, is it true? No. So this is what you have to know that these are evaluated based on the international indicators. So that's why some of the indicators we have passed it already. For example, you can see that no poverty, goal number one, is already passed for Thailand because the indicators underlying this one, they use international poverty line, which is very low compared to Thai standard, something like that. So these are the situation of Thailand. So basically, at the international level, we are doing very well in poverty reduction, but we still have problem with goal number 3, good health and well-being. And the three most important issues underneath this is that the prevalence of tuberculosis, which is in the red zone, traffic death, also in the red zone, and adolescent pregnancy, which is also in the reverse trend. I mean, other countries are going down, we are going up, something like that. The second one is inequality, goal number 10, which Ajahn Ravirawat will present about the situation in more detail, and climate action and life below water. These are the four main goals that are still a problem in Thailand right now, according to the SDG index. But there are also other reports that report situation in the region. For example, SDG progress report produced by UNSCAP. So we can also follow the situation of the country and the region in that report. Yes. And in that report also suggests that in Southeast Asia, we also have problem on SDG 16 on peace, democracy, and human rights. And the bad thing is that we are having a reversal trend. Instead of going forward, we are going backwards. Not my word, it's there, it's stated in the report. And also environmental goals, especially climate change adaptation, ocean and life below water, and also life on land, goal number 15, need more data and information. And the performance that we already have is kind of below the standard that's set by the UNESCO. And also adolescent pregnancy is a trend, also a reversal trend. So this is the situation of Thailand from the reports that I reviewed. And this is the this is how Thailand is working right now in the country. This is I think the most updated one we have. So at the center of the picture we have the National Committee for Sustainable Development, which is chaired by the Prime Minister, and the main organization that works that drive this committee is the National Economic and Social Development Council, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also the National Statistical Office. So underneath there are 4 subcommittees, which is work on like the implementations, on the evaluations, on integrating subsistency economy philosophy into the SDGs, and also environmental strategic assessment. So 4 subcommittees. The committee is linked with the world through the report of like the voluntary national review or the VNR, and we report that in the high-level political forum on sustainable development. Okay, and Ministry of Foreign Affairs also organized a platform we call Open-Ended Working Group for Sustainable Development for SDGs, which links CSO networks and also academic networks together, and also the government officers. So we have a platform, like an informal platform where all parties can actually discuss what's going on and share their experiences. We also have thematic networks, which right now focusing on goal number 11, which is the city, resilient cities, and goal number 12, sustainable consumption and production. We also have area-based network, which is moving alongside government policies like Krabi Go Green, who try to promote renewable energy in the south, along with the coal power plant policy of the government in the south as well, and also change the East agenda, which is the movement of people in the eastern part that go along with the EEC, Eastern Economic Corridor policy of the government. Okay, the most interesting and progressive sector last year is the private sector network. They have formed Thailand Responsible Business Network. Yeah. So yeah, this is what the network looks like. Okay. So how much SDGs are mainstream in Thai national policies? So what I did was that I was trying to map the policy contents with SDGs, and I did two-level mapping. And normally people would do like one-level mapping, like trying to match the content with the SDG goals. So that is the basic mapping. But I try to do something a little bit more. I try to map with the development objectives. Let's say we have 5 development objectives: economic development, social development, environmental protection, national security, and government administration. And I think we're going to see things differently, because sometimes when we say we have education policy, perhaps that education is for economic growth, not for social development, for example. So this is what the NESDC map, the SDGs with the national strategy. So I'm going to skip this a little bit. This is to the master plan under 20-year national strategy of the SDGs. Okay. This is a structure of national plans in Thailand. Now we have 3 levels of plans in Thailand. The first level plan is the 20-year national strategy. The second level, there are 4 plans. First, the master plans under the national strategy plan, 23 of them. And we have national reform plans, 11 of them. And the national economic and social development plan, 12 ones we have, right? And the national security plan. And so this is second level policy. The third level is all action plans, policy roadmaps formulated by ministries. And in this case, I'm going to bring up the Thailand Science Research and the Innovation Policies. Okay. This is what I found. From the basic mapping with the 20-year national strategy, you can see that the emphasis at the objective indicators and issues stated in the plan kind of emphasize a lot on the security matters, which is related to goal number 16. And also goal number 8 and number 4. And so the government emphasized a lot on security, on economic development, and also on human development, which is a good sign. But they kind of emphasize a lot less on environmental issues, and also like gender equality, and also like the energy. If we do the second level mapping and try to map with the development objectives, at the 20-year national strategy, it's quite balanced in a way. I mean, all strategies are addressed in a balanced way, even though they emphasize a little bit more on social development and economic development. But at this level, the goal seems to be quite balanced. At the second level, we map SDGs with 23 master plans, and that's a lot of documents to be reviewed. So we focus on the objective of the master plan. And so the basic mapping shows us that the master plan focus mainly on the economic development, which is goal number 8, and a little bit on goal number 16. But goal number 16, the national security already have their own plan. So several of the issues are in those plans. But the gender equality is kind of mixing, and the energy is also mixing from the master plan. I mean, if we talk about the objectives only, I mean, the content can be covered, every single thing, but the objective is what emphasized in the plan, so we focus on this. And if we only focus on the objectives, you can see that with the second level mapping, you can see that the master plan emphasizes a lot on economic development and social development, but very little on environmental protections, governance, and also national security. Okay. The last case study that I try to map is the research plans. There are 3 levels of research plans: the platform, programs, and flagships projects. So this is what we found. When we try to align SDGs with all we have, you can also see that the plan is also emphasized a lot on economic development, and very little and almost non-existent for the environmental goals. No. So I think what we can, let me skip to the end, because so this is the end. So let me conclude in the end. I would say that SDGs are mainstream in Thailand's policy. So this is a good sign that we already embrace SDGs. But we cannot say for certain, like 100%, that the first and second level plans and policies are totally aligned. And so there are some overlapping between the SDGs and the first and second level plans. But that is fine. Because it's our country, I think we can decide what we want to do with the national plan. But I think we need to have more balance in terms of development objectives, and emphasizing more on the environmental and natural resource protection as well as the climate change, because this is very lacking right now, and actually we are facing a lot of that today, like the air pollution and water crisis, something like that. But of course, this is only the 23 master plans. There are national development plan, there are reform plan, security plan, and so we plan to extend our study to map all level policy to level 2 policy documents, and try to study deeper in terms of policy coherence, which means analyzing how these plans and strategies contribute to each SDGs, and whether they are consistent with each other and as well as with the SDGs or not. And if we can go further, and this could be a cooperation with Korean universities, well, it's about monitoring the impact, evaluation of SDGs on these policy strategies. So yes, this is what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Chan Chun, so much. I think he already gave us the clear summary about what is Thailand lacking about the SDG movement nowadays and what to be done next. Okay, for the next presentation, we will be from Chan Virwat Pathanasuk Kamchon. He is a lecturer from Thammasat University, Faculty of Economics. He will give us the presentation about the situations and indicators of SDG goal number 10 on inequality in Thailand. Please welcome Ajahn Virwat.
Good afternoon, everyone. So Ajahn Chun gave you a very optimistic picture. As you can see from my slides, I use black because I'm going to represent the pessimism of the situation in the SDG. Not that bad, actually. So my presentation is about the situations and indicators of the SDG goal number 10, which is the account for inequality within and among countries. So my presentation is going to be a very straightforward one, which this part is a research which I also joined the SDG move as well. This is a part of the SDG move. For this goal, for this part of my research, it does not require any like strict methodology. So this is just a snapshot of Thailand and how we are doing right now for the inequality, followed by the targets, each target of the SDG for this goal. So a very rough picture of this goal, we have 10 targets within this goal and also 11 indicators. I roughly separated the targets into the within and among countries into 4 and 6 targets. So the data sources I have collected are from the NESDC, which is the Office of the National Economic and Social Development Council. They just announced that they are going to change the organization name, so some part of my presentation is going to be the same name, so I'm sorry for that. So the second source is going to be from the Bank of Thailand, and the third one is also from the United Nations Statistics Division. Okay, so let's start from the first target. So when we look at the inequality problem, for sure, firstly we want to look at the income or the expenditure, because that's like a proof of how people are able to live, right? So the first target of the SDG goal number 10 is to promote or encourage the bottom 40 to have growth of their income or their expenditure to be greater than the average of the national. So I have collected the data. I'm sorry for that graph, is a bit too small. Now let's see the graph on the left hand side first. The thick pink one is the bottom 40, but the bottom 40 growth of their income on each year on year actually. And the dotted line is the national average. So as you can see that each year they kind of like take turns. So some year the bottom 40 grows better, some years the average is higher. The green bar represents a year that the bottom 40 grows greater than the average. But the picture right here, as you can see that they kind of like go together quite well. So I did the correlation test, so it turns out to be the 0.081, which I'm not sure if I can interpret anything from this, but it kind of like they goes almost like together. I don't want to like over-interpret this statistics for now, okay? But if we look at the nominal term instead, you can see that the bottom 40 doesn't seem to catch up with the national average at all. So bottom 40 now, in the latest data that I have is from 2016. Each month they earn only 3,400 baht, while the average is at the 9,600 baht, which are like 3 times apart. So this is the first indicator. Unfortunately, we don't have the statistics for the second and the third one. So the second target, it tries to like see the people who earn less than 50% of the median income. Like for example, if we have the median income of 10,000 baht, below that 50%, which is about like 5,000 baht a month, we would like to see who are they, how much percentage of them are disabled, if they are like how many percentage are the women, something like that. Unfortunately, I can't find any data anywhere, but we can plot it from the national statistics anyway, but the data has not been plotted just for the sake of SDG yet. And the third one is the statistics that people, or the percentage of people reporting that they feel discriminated or harassed within the year. We also don't have that statistics as well. So I'm going to skip to the fourth one, which is the labor share of GDP. So the data is, this seems to be not in line with each other that much. So I have again 2 pictures to compare. The left hand side, I took the data from the NESDC. I'm sorry for the synonym over there. Now, if I use the data from the NESDC, we find that the labor share is kind of like dropping. If we look from the 2009 to 2017. But if I take the GDP data from the Bank of Thailand, the trend is kind of like reverse. So, but what is so very sure is that I disaggregate this labor share into the agricultural and the non-agricultural sector. As you can see that the pink one is very low compared to the non-agricultural sector as well. In my opinion, I think this indicator doesn't tell us much about the inequality as well, even though they include wage, social protection, and the other types of social protection transfer into the labor share. But we also have other types of factors of production, right? We have capital, we also have land, we also have the entrepreneur, which we really don't know how they distribute across the population at all. So labor share is just a part that we can see. So the first four indicators, the first four targets right here are the within countries inequality. From the fifth one to the last one is going to be the among. So we're starting from the fifth one. The fifth one right here is the financial soundness indicator, which even the UN metadata on this target has not been resolved yet, where is the point that each country needs to achieve. Lots of the among countries indicators and targets, we don't have the resolution yet where we want to see, where we want to reach, where we want to achieve yet. So what's interesting here is that I believe that most, I'm not going to go through the details of all these, but we have sub-indicators for 7.1 to combine it as a financial soundness indicator. Only the fourth and the third should be less. So the less is the better for the third and the fourth, which is the non-performing loans. As you can see that, as we all know, if you are Thai, you might acknowledge the problem of the household debt recently. So since 2012, each bar represents each year from 2006 to 2017. As you can see that, and in the middle of the third and the fourth sub-indicator right here is kind of like increasing trend. So, but the other, I think there's no issue for the financial stability for Thailand at all because we are quite strong financially. The sixth one is that to ensure if we, as a developing country, has the like proper amount of voting right and are a member in international organization. So we look at the proportion of the members in the international organization, which are 11 of them. So see, there's lots of complication because there are sub indicators like this. Apart from the percentage or the proportion of the members, we also look at their voting rights as well. So the higher is not the better, but it represents how much of the member state that are the developing countries. What's interesting here is that most of the bars right here, I separate the yellow bar as the proportion of members. So for example, in ADB, there are 67% of the member states which are developing countries. But for the pink one is the voting rights. So the voting rights seems to be less than the proportion of the member for almost like for some of the organizations right here. So it means that most of the international organization does not adopted the one country, one vote system, which is kind of like the paramount of the UN target right here. There's another complication as well. For example, the third bar, the ECOSOC, which is the United Nations Economic and Social Council, which is the kind of like the structure of this organization is not permanent. So each year from the General Assembly, they're going to elect they're going to elect 54 member states. So it's kind of like they take turn. So we don't have the resolution what or how do we going to interpret this indicator just yet, because if the like percentage of the member of the ECOSOC right there goes down, it doesn't mean that it's like better or worse. We are not sure. The next one is the facilitation of safe and regular responsible migration and mobility. We have two indicators for this target. The first one is the recruitment cost borne by employee as a proportion of their yearly income, which again, unfortunately, I cannot find any data available online just yet. The second one is the number of countries with migration policies to facilitate orderly, safe, regular, and responsible migration and mobility of people. So we have the data for the second indicators right here, but there are 6 domains within this indicator again, and in each domain we have 5 questions for each country if they can kind of like achieve each question or each criterion or not. So this is the result. The yellow one is for Thailand. So the score would be in percentage term. The first domain for Thailand we get 60%, which is quite okay. But if 80% and above, which is very good, so we quite achieve almost all of the domains right here, except for the first one, which is the non-national equal access to welfare benefit and rights. What if we look at the global, we can see that most of the country also achieve like the second domain and so on as well. For the first domain, it's quite problematic. Now this is kind of like the sub-indicators again, which is actually is the 8th target, but I'm not sure why they even call it A. So this is the target 10A. Now for this target, we want to see if the tariff line or the proportion of any kind of goods or service that needs to be that can be imported through each country, how many percentage of them that does not require any taxing at all. So this is for Thailand only. We're going to see how much or how many percentage of the product that has not or not taxed by Thai government. But these goods must come from the least developing country or the developing country. So as we can see that we might look for the trend for this indicator as well. It seems like we're having a good trend that we try to promote a zero tariff line from the importing from the developing countries and the least developing country as well. Okay, but we are still below the world average right now because the world average is about like 60% of the product. We are about at the 50% right now. Okay, last but not least, the 10B. So this indicator will look at the official assistant and also the transfer, other types of transfer as well. If how many percent or how much of the money that is the official assistant that flows to the developing countries and the other types of country that we are most interested in, which are the small island or the landlocked least developing country as well. So again, we see the upward trend that the official flow of the assistance goes to the developing country as well. But we cannot measure it in the percentage because we have another a very large chunk of which they call the residual or the unallocated ODA, which is a type of money that doesn't go specifically to one country at all. So suppose that there's like 100 million US that is funded for a project, but the project is co-paid to many countries. So we cannot identify which country that it directly goes to. So we don't kind of like measure it in percentage, which is going to be nonsense. Okay. The last one is the remitting cost. So if I go out and work somewhere else, how much do I need to pay in order for the payment to be my transaction cost to send my money back home in Thailand? So suppose I work in Korea. How much on average that I need to pay for the transaction cost. The goal is to reduce this down to 3% or below, but for Thailand, I'm not sure about this data as well because I collected from the UN, which the data contradicts the NSDC data, which stated that we already achieved this goal already. But as I see the data from the UNSD, our remittance cost is still at the 8.3%, which means that if I work and I got like 10,000 US, if I'm going to send home, I need to pay like $800 to send my money back home on average, which is again above the world average right now, which means that we can improve on this. Okay, so a little bit of thoughts before I finish my presentation. I review a little bit further on the inequality problems of Thailand because we need to have something else for this project as well. So I want to state that we are not quite sure about our inequality situation, which again, I'm quite pessimistic about it. So for sure, for the 30 years of our development is quite very good for like uplifting the poverty, and kind of the poverty rate quite goes down really quickly in the last 30 years. So without doubt that we have success on this development part, but if we look at the inequality aspect, there are so many more, and I believe that this sustainable development goals, they are quite too like universalized as much, because I believe that for the inequality problem in each country, they are all different. Some of the countries may have serious civil war. We don't have one, but if we look at some of the statistics right here that I take on that I put right here. So this is, I'm not sure if this statistic is like regularly kept updated or not, but these are what I found interesting is that like we also have the title deed problem. In 2015, 60% of the title deeds go to the first top 1% or something like this. Many recent literature also suggests that we have a serious problem in the financial asset holding and the owning of these assets as well. We also have another researcher that studied inequality in Thailand a lot more thoroughly than we here, which I believe that he give a lot better suggestion than me as well. So shouldn't we take all of these other aspects into account? Because I don't believe that SDG goal number 10 right here is going to be able to capture every single detail of our problem, at least for Thailand. And it doesn't mean that if we already achieve this goal, the inequality would not be a problem anymore in our country. Okay, so that's it from my presentation.
Thank you so much, Ajahn Vilawan, for this pessimistic presentation about the SDGs. Okay, for participants, if you have some question about the first two presentation, we are going to wrap up the Q&A session after the third paper. So please wait and keep your question. Okay, the third presentation will be from the Korean side of the SDGs. So Professor Yoon-sik Chang from Kangwon University, he is the former Vice President of OIGA. He is going to present about the SDGs and Korea's development experience. So everyone please welcome Professor Yoon-sik Chang.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Professor Chang. I spent my whole life in aid agencies as a practitioner. Therefore, my presentation is focusing on how the Korean experience, especially development experience, could integrate it into Korea's ODA programs. ODA means official development assistance like that. Present time is very limited, therefore I would like to expedite my presentations to you. My presentation divided into two parts. The first talk about Korea from recipient countries to donor countries within 5 decades in a short period of time, how the Korea transformed into donor countries. Second is my highlight of my presentation talks about Korea SDG strategies and how different experience can combine together into Korea's SDGs programs as well. Korea, this picture shows that how the Korea changed from recipient to donor countries within a short period of time. You can see that Korea had received huge amount of ODA from, in other words, foreign aid from all over the world. Especially 1950 was the time for Korea to receive huge amount of food aid, because 1950 was the area of Korean War. Everything was destroyed by Korean War. Therefore, we have no choice but to receive the food aid or something like that in the name of a grant. But if you see that the 1963 to 1980s, this is a year of Korea's industrializations, from light industry to heavy industry and high-tech industry as well. Within 40 years, Korea received technical cooperation and loans, which is suitable for Korea's heavy infrastructures constructions. And we graduated recipient in 1990s when World Bank was graduated Korea from the aid recipient list. But if you see the below part of it, you can see that how Korea changed from recipient to donor countries. 1960s, we have many equipment supply. For example, made in Korea product was used for our ODA programs in 1960s. And in 1970s, we have founded so-called EDSHEP, Economic Development Cooperation Fund, in many, especially in ASEAN countries as well. And also in 1990s, my former agency, KOICA, was founded, and we joined the OECD in 1996. And in the years of 21st centuries, we have established the CIDE, means Committee for International Development Cooperation, under the Prime Minister offices. This is the highest ranking decision-making body of Korea's ODA. And also we have joined OECD DAC in 2010. DAC means Development Assistance Committee of the OECD. It means that we are really a donor countries as well. And if you see that there is a ODA law, which was passed in our National Assembly in 2010, this shows that the ODA law has 5 our main objectives. The first is poverty reduction, and second is enhance the human rights of women, children, and the realization of gender equality, which are involving in SDG as well. We also realize sustainable development and humanitarianism, and then a promotion of economic cooperation with the partner countries, and finally, peace and prosperity of the international. These are 5 main objectives of Korea's ODA. And with this kind of law, we have 3 values of ODA. The first, bring up to partner countries by supporting poverty reduction and self-reliance, because Korea was transformed from aid recipient, very poor countries to rich countries. Therefore, we have to share our experience together by showing or hoping to our partner countries. The second values was show example by tackling global issues, poverty reduction, environmental issues, and economic issues as well. And third, give pride to Korean people by upgrading national status. This is very similar to Thailand, because Thailand also shows some kind of mutual understanding and mutual respect when provide ODA programs. Like Thailand, Korea is the same. We provide something, not forcing other countries to follow Korea's. We are consulting with them before we provide ODA programs. Why? Because we respect their culture, their heritage, and their political and economic endowment. With this kind of objective and values, we have three principles. The first is combine the needs of partner countries and our ODA experience. Because in the past, ODA program was failed because it was one-sided, forcing other countries to follow it. But Korea does not, as I told you, because we respect them first. Therefore, it means that when we formulated ODA policies, we think about first, what is their priority, what they need. This is a very important principle of it. And second is maximize aid effectiveness by integrating many types of it. We have grants and the loans, technical cooperations, many part of it. We would combine it. Why? We maximize aid effectiveness. The third is deliver sincere with the two hands. As I told you, we respect that. Deliver two hands, it means that we respect you. In Thailand, when you have a greeting, there's two hands together. It means we respect you. Like Thailand, we also have the same pattern of it. And as I told you, in 2010, our National Assembly passed ODA law, and then it has basic philosophies, objective, concept, and disciplinary agencies for loan and grants. Based on that, we have enforcement of ODA law, and based on that, COICA by former agents, aid agencies like COICA and EDCF, they have formulated in accordance with our ODA law, something like that. This picture shows our architecture. It means ODA divided into bilateral and multilateral, and the bilateral subdivided into grants and loans, as I told you. By former is COICA is implementing grants and technical cooperation under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the loans under the Ministry are implemented by the Export-Import Bank, Exim Bank of Korea, and Ministry of Finance is controlling their programs. Multilateral also subdivided into contribution to UN, something like that. This is handled by Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and especially as far as subscription like World Bank or ADB or something like that. When you say subscription is concerned, it was handled by Ministry of Finance. This is very simple. So bilateral 2 ways and multilateral 2 ways, something like that. And Korea's contribution is summarized into 4. It's very brief, but say that we expanded ODA size very gradually, sometimes by enormous. It means that this year, Korea's ODA budgeting is corresponding to $3 billion US. 3 billion. This is really something. Because when I joined COICA in 1991, the COICA was founded year, and the COICA's budgeting was just 18 million US. But this year, it corresponds to $1 million US. It means Korea has a strong will to support other partner countries like that. But someone say it is not enough. When it comes to the ODA ratio for GNI, this means a little below the other countries. Therefore, our government is committed to increase more the ratio of ODA for GNI into 0.2% by this year, and 0.3% by 2030, the target year of the SDGs, something like that. Second is, when we joined OECD DAC, they reviewed our programs. They say that, well, Korea is working quite well, but it is not enough. They have to follow the international standard and the principles. So right now our government is working very hard to accommodate that kind of thing into Korea's ODA programs. And they say that they set more multilateral aid than right now. We are working with it, and we also have increased more untying aid. Untying means not combined ODA program of Korea with a made in Korea product. So it means that untied aid they recommended Korea more anti-day, something like that. Therefore, we have to follow their recommendations as well. And also, we have many big conferences in Korea to make progress of international standard into not only Korea in the global villages like that. In 2011, in Busan conferences, the second city of Korea, they have a fourth AD previous meeting, and then the so-called Busan platform was declared in this sense. And right now, the World Global Villages in ODA program is working very hard to accommodate the Busan platform into their programs. Well, this is just the starting of Korean ODA programs for your references. But right now, I would like to give you 5 cases of Korean experience, development experience, how these experience can integrate in Korea's ODA program, especially in SDGs. Professor Bernard already explained to you how SDGs is all about, consisting of 17 goals or something like that. This picture shows this is SDGs. How Korea combined SDGs goal into our national level and implementation levels like this way. Korean right now has so-called medium and long-term international cooperation plan. Right now it's the second term of it, 2016 and 2020. Maybe next year they will have a third international standard or plan in 2021 to 2025. They also stimulated SDG as main objective of our international cooperation plan. With this kind of thing, our government announced 5 initiatives. For example, better life for girls, safe life for all, and science and technology innovation for better life, and also sustainable development, rural development, and also better education for Africa lives. We already have working very hard with this kind of 5 initiatives. How the implementation like Koika can accept that kind of our national SDG plan in their framework. So-called our government strategies to SDGs, and also in accordance with this kind of thing, Koika also stimulated or by that kind of strategies into our specific ODA programs like that. Like our government, Koika also has mid-term strategy by sector. We have 5 main sectors. For example, education, public health, and governance, and rural development, and the infrastructure. These are 5 main sectors which we focused on. And also, Koika will contribute to achieve SDGs where, what, how, and with whom. You can see that I will expedite it and skip this thing for expediting, because one thing, Koika has right now 24 main partner countries. We have reduced from 100 recipient list to 24 main partner countries right now, because we are the member of the DAC. They ask Koika to reduce as many as possible the main countries. With main countries, we have so-called CPS. CPS means country partnership strategies, like this way. So we would like to make this kind of thing. And Koika, as I told you, we have education, health, fishery, agriculture, and environment, energies, and public administration means governance. Based on that, we would like to combine 5 initiatives by our Korean government in our SDGs programs like this way. Okay, let me give you what comparative advantage of Korea's development experience to you. The first is we achieved very recent industrialization of experience of industrializations. This means that we industrialized under different environment from traditional agrarian society to the industries like this way. And also we have accumulated varied and invaluable experience of industrializations from that. This kind of experience is reflected in ODA programs as well. And second is we have self-reliant. Even though we receive huge amount of foreign aid from all over the world, we make the best use of this fund to our priority area. This is very important. This is different from other partner countries in Africa. We make the best use of Korea's development. It's not aid dependent. So the third is we have competent human resources to make it. Therefore, this is very important. Even though we receive huge amount of aid, this is just money. But most important thing is how to manage that kind of money into, development processes. They're very important. Therefore, we have produced very competent human resources. The fourth, institutional buildings. This is also another factor which explains why Korea made the best use of their ODA programs as well. So let me give you very briefly how the Korean experience can integrate into our ODA program. The goal number 4 of SDG shows that quality education. As I told you, KOICA has 5 main sectors. Education is one of them. Do you know why? Because education played a very important role in making the people change the world, change his life. Therefore, I cannot overemphasize the importance of education because Korea achieved industrialization based on human resources development. Education is the number 1 in terms of it. So, especially in TVET programs, TVET, Technical Vocation Training Program, we have very good TVET programs from 1960 to 1970 to 1980s. Based on our light industry, we have accumulated light industry workers. 1970, 1980 heavy industry, we have very good programs, TVET programs, in accordance with our industrial stages. Therefore, we would like to combine this kind of TVET programs into KOICA's programs as well. As you see that in social sector, education, health, and water and sanitation, etc., education is very important part of our ODA program, especially KOICA's P education program. You can see that in higher education and technical personnel and highly talented personnel as well. Based on each criteria and then each level of educations, we provide tailor-made approaches to our partner countries like this way. A second example is goal 6, clear water and sanitation. This is very important part of it, especially in Africa. Therefore, we have provide very good programs of this clean water and sanitation. Why? Korea was, thank you. We have lack of clean water in 1960s and 70s, but government decided to put a very the good energies about it in these programs as well. That you just said 1960, 1980, 1999, 2000 and 2006 and 2011. There's a different policies and different implementation of it. So we have accumulated this kind of thing, and then this was reflected in OD programs as well. Especially if you see that water and sanitation aid program Korea, water supply and sanitation, basic drinking, water supply and sanitation, waste management, disposal, leaf-based development, etc. There are many kind of sub-titled, the water and clean water and sanitation programs. Therefore, it was always reflected in our ODA program in each area about that. And third example was goal 8, decent worker and economic growth. Also, this is very important. Why? SDG is different from MDG was focused on social development. But unlike SDGs is combining social development, economic development, and environmental protections as well. Therefore, Korea also knows that how important economic well-being. Even though you graduated without any kind of your job, how you can utilize your education. Therefore, this is indivisible. So it is combined together. Korea was high employment after industrialization 1960 and 70. If you see this kind of graph, you can see that growth rate in employment is like this way, almost 2% of growth every year. And also this kind of aid program was also reflected in Korea's human resources development. As I told you in education's Tibet program and the human resource development also very important tool in Korea's ODA programs as well. Number 9 was industry and innovation and infrastructure. These are also one of five main sectors of Korea's ODA programs, and infrastructure is, the basic engine of industrializations, which requires huge amount of ODA or funding. Therefore, Korea received not only grants but also, loan programs, soft loan programs from all over the world. But in 1980s, when we have built heavy industries, we changed from soft loan to hard loans as well, which resulted in the economic crisis in 1980s. But Korea's ODA programs not only provide a positive aspect of it, but sometimes failed case of Korea's development. This is very important. Not only good cases, but bad cases together, so that different countries can choose our program based on their conditions. So, if you see Korea's wide comparative, we have many infrastructures, and like Thailand, we have a very good infrastructure as well. So, we would like to share this kind of thing in our ODA programs: transport and storage, and communication, energies, and banking and financing services, and business other services as well. I will give you 1 minute before I finish it. This is the last case of my presentations to you. Number 16. Mr. Professor Bernard talked about the current condition of goal 16 in Thailand. We have some kind of things to share together. Number 16 is peace and justice and strong institutions. We have still weak, sometimes in governance factor, corruptions, briberies somewhere. But the thing is that we have reduced the ratio of corruption and bribe very enormously as time passes by, because our government has a strong policies and implementations and monitoring. Therefore, right now, we can see that Korea's government competitiveness in 1996, 20, or 2015, the percentage was increased very rapidly. It means that we have, to some degrees, is a cleaner government compared with in the past. How this kind of thing is reflected in ODA programs: institutionalized anti-corruption and transparencies, strong competence of public offices and relevant training system, and consensus building and conflict management. We have many conflict among the groups, among ages, among job occupations. But how we can reduce that kind of conflict is very important in making the countries in harmonious ways. And first, governance sector is one of Korea's core other themes. You see that capacity building, effective and efficient e-government, and efficient and transparent administrative competence as well, and the legal system and public security modifications. This is not enough. But in case of Korea, we have, how can I say, explore the way how to increase more and more governance sector in ODA programs as well. It's my hope that you will have some kind of, a brief understanding of Korea's ODA and how Korean lived experience is integrated into our ODA programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Chang. He gave us the really comprehensive picture about the linkage between the SDGs and also the ODA program with the Korean context. Now we are going to have around 10 minutes of the Q&A session for the first 3 papers dissertation. So I will give the floor that if you have any question, you can just raise your hand, introduce yourself shortly, and you can ask the 3 presenters of our first session. Okay, please. I will ask myself. Okay, I'm curious about the presentation of Professor Chang. So I would like to know that first, does the case of Korean ODA does it have to depend on like the government policies on that period? For example, like the government policies and diplomatic policies on that time, or like Korea can choose the target and the program by itself. And please.
As far as I know, that Korean government has 3 priorities. Of course, political and diplomatic motivation is one of them. Also, economic factors as well. But I feel that along with the 2 factors, humanitarian factor is very important as well. Why? We increased more ODA from 8% to 23% to Africa. It means that we have tripled our ODA programs to Africa, which shows that how Korean government think about humanitarian factors as well. But it does not mean that we ignore political and economic factors as well, I think. So, as Thailand is starting ODA programs from recipient to donor countries, therefore maybe Korean cases will have some kind of lessons to you, not only political and economic factors and economic factors as well, human factors is also important.
Yes, I also have a question for Professor Chan. I mean, from Thailand perspective, I think being a donor country is something very new to us, and I think also new to Thai people, because we seem to always think that we still have problems in our country, and then why should we help others right now? We should help ourselves first. But I just wonder if that is true for South Korea. I mean, when you start to be donor countries and you spend like $1 billion on ODA, does it mean that you don't have problem in your country anymore and you spend outside countries?
Same to Korea as well, frankly speaking. But when we have a national forum every year, that kind of ratio why we provide ODA from different countries is decreasing. It is very good sign for ODA programs because public awareness is right now increasing, and the government officials understand why we provide it. We know that this is just 100% taxed by the people. It means that there are some kind of long-term investment for Korea's national interest as well. We know that, but we cannot reveal anything national interest in our ODA programs. But behind the scene, there are something in their mind. Otherwise, the Korean people does not understand it. Besides that, Korean people, like Thailand peoples, is like quite, what can I say, generous to other countries. It means that Korean people, especially in our many NGOs, they get a huge amount of funding from our elementary students, and junior and high student, they want providing voluntary basis. It means from that kind of mind setting is already set up from the early region. So I think maybe Thailand right now is providing ODA programs to neighboring countries. Therefore, based on South-South cooperations, I believe that Thailand will play a very important role in this sense. Of course, in this sense, public awareness will be increased.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. My question is to Professor Chan.
Yes.
As you spoke about the priority areas in terms of Korea, talking about education, maybe the agriculture, and also the rural development. So is there any particular focus area you would like to target in terms of collaboration with Thailand for the areas you're looking at? Or is it open, or it depends on mapping the interest between Thailand and Korea?
I think there are many ways. Right now, Korean government will focusing on ASEAN countries, our first priority already. In this sense, I think we have many areas to cooperate each other between Korea and Thailand. Especially, I would like to focus on rural development in ASEAN countries because we have very good programs in 1970s, so-called Semaron New Community Movement, which transformed our rural area into modernized one in a very short period of time. This is a well-known program as well, and then we would like to share this kind of thing to neighboring countries. Also, Thailand is on very good programs as well in this sense. Therefore, by combining together comparative advantage of Korean experience and Thailand experience together, and also we are focusing on the area of our ASEAN countries. If this was done, I believe that very effective and very sustainable in achieving SDG goals.
Hello. Thank you for your presentation. I have a quick question for Professor Shah. I'm wondering, for instance, in the case of ASEAN, what are the criteria of Korean allocation of foreign aid in each country, for instance, and you could provide the fund to the local office of the international organization or local NGOs, the local governments. I'm wondering how does the Korean government approach this subject?
Korea's ODA program is formally government-to-government basis. It does not mean that we just limited our ODA programs to the other government. We enlarge the stakeholders from government to NGOs and also academia as well. Therefore, when we increase more ODA as time passes by, and then have more possibilities to cooperate each other in local NGO and local government as well. But it does not mean that we bypass central government or recipient countries. We cooperate each other before we have program in local basis. Therefore, we are focusing on government-to-government basis and then increase more stakeholder together in the process of ODA programs.
Okay, may I have one more question, please? Okay. Since we already heard from the news that, yes, we know that Korean economy is developing and the situation is better, but when the economic situation is better, there are the higher demand for the unskilled labors, and also there are many cases of Thai workers who migrate illegally to work in Korea. Does Korea consider this a case or the strategy for giving the ODA? Because you said also that one focus of the Korean ODA is about to promote the decent jobs as well. Thank you.
Of course, we have stimulated our strategies in implementation level in Korea. And reflecting SDGs plus liberals no one beyond, for example, inclusive, combined together. universal education, as Professor Bernard told you about it, and then it was reflected on Korea's SD program. It means that we have accumulated our development experience into Koika's many ODA programs, reflecting SDG school as well. But when it comes to, for example, decent job, and we have good programs as well, and then technically it should be reflected in our interpretation as well. Before we make our strategies, we have close consultation with our partner countries first. What is your priority? What do you want? What is your poverty area? What is your decent jobs? What is your employment rate of use or something like that? With this kind of thing together, we have strategies vis-a-vis other partners. Therefore, definitely we will reflect the kind of thing into our programs.
Okay, please.
Question for Jan Shon. Based on your evaluation of the 20 years plan, since the implementation, you think that it has really helped us achieve the SDG faster, or do you think we naturally don't do this without?
How can I say this? Well, I can say that 20-year national plan itself actually gives us direction where we're going. So in a sense, the content is, I think it's okay. The problem is how it come about. So without participation process before that, it makes people doesn't feel that they own the plan. So one answer I would say that the 20-year national plan gives us a direction, so that is good. Second thing is that is the direction actually answering to the SDGs? I would say, well, to be fair, it is partially answering to the SDG because after I delve into the content of the plan and also the 23 documents, I have to say that there are some good intentions in those plans. But I think the problem of implementing these plans would be the governance of the government and other sectors in society. And this has been our problem for a very long time, and it is still a problem right now. Even though the government is trying to establish like committees to coordinate between agencies, but there are still problems of like releasing data, sharing data or coordinating in terms of budget and how to implement things. But yeah, since I'm also working with the government officers, I can say that they are trying to do that, but things are still going slow. So I think we are moving towards that direction, but it's going to be slow to the point that we may not achieve them in 2030 unless we change the way we work, unless the government open up more to several sectors to work on their own and they support them, like decentralizing stuff. And one last thing is about, I think there are some elements that kind of conflict with SDGs. I mean, SDGs kind of promote like multiculturalism. They are trying to allow the local to initiate their own development initiatives. But right now the structure of the country is more centralized. If we talk about decentralization, people say we are Changshat, I mean we don't like the country or something like that. So that is totally untrue, right? But without proper decentralization policies and how to roll them out in practice, without that we would not be able to achieve SDGs in time. We really need decentralization, and we need the locals to participate actively in this.
Okay. If there is no more question, we will stop this session and we will have a short break. So we have already offered the place for all of the participants here. So please grab the step outside, and then we will come back in the next 10 minutes. We will start the second session around 3:20.
For the introduction of ourselves. You know, yeah. 3 page.
저는 지금 7개 남았습니다.
เริ่มสอนวันไหนเนี่ย
อันนี้คือเรามี partnership กับเขา